Hey, greetings everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Plan B Success. How many of you have heard the term thinking outside the box? Now, it's a pretty common term, isn't it? It's pretty easily and often used in the work environment, or when you're talking to youngsters, or when you're asking people to think differently. Think outside the box is what you say. Recently, SoftBank has been in the news quite a bit. I'm sure you all have heard about the WeWork debacle. And now SoftBank, which has this humongous fund out there that it's invested in several startups, some doing well, some doing not so well, is taking a look at all of its investments again. And wherever it's losing money, it's rethinking its strategy. The latest in the news is the company WAG, an app where you can look for people to take your dog for a walk. Apparently, SoftBank invested about 300 million into it. I believe not all the money has been given, but actually sold the stake back to the owners of the company. 50% is what they had. Apparently, they sold it back, and that's been in the news. And there's a lot of talk around the way SoftBank has been investing its money. Just a couple of months ago, right before even the WeWork debacle, for years everybody was singing songs in praise of SoftBank, and now with the debacle, everybody is back at their throat. Well, I think that's the name of the game, so to speak. That's how people tend to react, depending on which way the wind's blowing. And I think that's where I want to come back to this topic of thinking outside the box. Now, the reason for any investments or anybody going after and pursuing a particular startup is innovation. Over the last 2+ decades, the word disruption has been thrown around quite a bit. Innovation and disruption. Well, innovation, the act of creating something new, and disruption, the act of changing status quo with something better, have gone hand in hand. These terms are interchangeably used or used together when talking about making the world a better place with a new invention or discovery. And of late, everybody is out there trying to disrupt the world or innovate something new. Not a bad precedent at all. Obviously, there's more innovation to be done, there's more discoveries to be made, and the more disruption occurs, human life is supposed to get better. Isn't that what it's all about? If you really look into it, access to technology and our handle on it to make it do things that we never imagined possible has been key to the familiarity of these words over the last 2 decades. The world as we know it has probably seen frequent and much innovation and disruption in the last 20 years than ever before. Innovation doesn't necessarily have to be something very dramatic. It can be subtle, slow, even making something that already exists just a tad bit better. What's important in the mindset to make things better, which I believe is more prevalent with those living in current times than ever before, not for the emoluments it may bring, but more so for the sheer joy in transforming the way we live to be that much more efficient. History has shown rich and varied times of innovation as well. When we look at technology today, we talk about being on the cusp of technology. Well, when the wheel was invented, when the electric bulb was invented, they thought the same. At that point in time, that was the cusp of technology. We can argue today that there's a lot more innovation happening around us now, like I said, in the last 20 years. Yes, we can argue about that because there's a lot more focus on it. Whereas when the wheel was invented or when the electric bulb was invented, there was innovation at that time, but they had to go through their own odds. They had to go against things that were stopping them or challenging them from doing such innovation at those points in time, and yet they innovated, yet they disrupted the status quo. And we need to be cognizant of that. Like I said, history has shown rich and varied times of innovation as well, but more in the mechanical and automation areas than technological as is now. Those were difficult times too, and I have much respect for the inventors of the time who gave us what we consider our basics today, and not so much as give a second thought to it. The electric bulb, like I said, telephone, automobiles, all of these things that we take for granted today were invented by people who had many, many odds to face, but just kept up with the desire and the dreams until they were realized. Today's entrepreneurs and innovators fight against odds as well. I'm not taking it away from them, albeit of a different kind than older times, to realize the dreams they set out with. Much is possible, and sooner too in our times. It's quicker, it's sooner. Every 5 years or 10 years, you can spring up a company and take it all the way through its exit. We see that time and again. And there's challenges both for the innovator, there's challenges for the investor too. SoftBank, WeWork, WAG that I just talked about, all of those are prime examples of some of the challenges that they face in today's markets. Now, much is possible, and sooner too in our times, especially with the entire world being fertile ground as one global market that's come together for whatever these adventurers come up with. It's instant validation of their hard work, if the world acknowledges this work, ensures great returns for them. When you look at companies that did really well for themselves, that really broke through and innovated in technological fields or in other fields, Google, Microsoft, Apple, the companies that we all look up to, the returns are immense for those that succeed. And you can see it in these examples that I just talked about. And there are several more which are at a smaller scale or a little bit lower scale than the humongous companies that we just talked about, yet they were successful. And for all of them, it's instant validation of their work. But when the world does not accept it, that's where you have failures, like what we saw in WeWork or what we are hearing about some of these other SoftBank companies that are not doing so well. So just pushing money or pumping money is not going to give you a big bet, is not going to allow for the world to accept it just because money is being pumped. The idea needs to have legs and it needs to be validated in true markets because it's the customers that keep these companies alive over a long period of time. It's not the money that's getting pumped into them. Such results where success is seen and returns are possible make it actually possible to encourage more people to take this journey, this adventurous journey, while the ones that succeeded continue down the path of another great adventure. What is interesting and refreshing in our times is that great returns in terms of money and popularity no longer tend to be the end goal of success that people set out to achieve. That's not what people are after. Well, those definitely are things that come their way, but a true innovator is after something much, much bigger than themselves, much bigger than what they're going to receive too. They're out to change the world. Our innovators still continue down the path of doing more, discovering more, and continue to tread the path of making the world a much better place to live in for generations to come. Money and fame are seen as simple outcomes of succeeding at what they set out to achieve, and that, I think, is truly remarkable with the innovators of the day. For all the inquisitive minds out there, go on and embark on your journey of innovation and disruption. There's no telling what is under which rock, and while you're at it, enjoy your adventure thoroughly, for that is the most precious aspect of it all in this entire journey. Hey, I hope you liked that episode. Please make sure that you spread the word, share the podcast Plan B Success with your friends and others who might benefit from this content, and do go check out rajivmudumba.com for the podcast episodes from the previous months. Thank you so much.